Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Nice little update today. So the engine is out. Look at all that room for activities. Wasn't too bad a job really. A couple of evenings, a couple of hours each evening. I think probably in total about 10 hours. It included taking some stuff off that didn't need to be taken off. Fuel burning heater and things like that obviously don't need to be taken off to remove the engine, but I need them off because they won't fit for the V8. So yeah, I think probably about 10 hours is about right. There was a couple of issues I had, a couple of snap bolts here and there, but nothing major. The most annoying bit being the exhaust downpipe. One of the nuts wouldn't come off, so I ended up having to cut the end and just take it out with it on. So that was a bit annoying. Took a bit more time, but not too much of a bother. Getting it out was easy enough, you know. I wouldn't say it's any harder than getting any other engine out. You've got a big bonus that all this lot's gone, so it gives you a lot more room. So what I did is you have to take the sump off, the sump pan, to get it up and over the diff there. So I took that off. That gave me a nice flat thing. So then once I undid the two nuts for the engine mounts, jacked it up so the weight was off the engine mounts, then removed the actual cast aluminium engine mounts from either side of the engine. It just gave loads more room, enabled me to move the engine side to side if needed. I decided to take it out with the gearbox in situ, so leave the gearbox where it was, because potentially I don't need to take the gearbox out. I think I can do most of my checks on the engine. It might have to come out, I don't know, but there's a chance it doesn't, so I'll leave it in there. So that's a big hurdle. One of the other annoying things I had was I don't know if it's original or not, I think it probably annoyingly is. So this is the Gearbox Loom, goes over the top of the gearbox and then connects to all the various sensors and stuff on the gearbox. Unfortunately that was looped behind the crossover pipe, so at the moment I can't tell if there's any easy way of getting to it in the fuse box. It didn't look like an easy way, so I had to go along and disconnect all the plugs and all the various P-clips and actually undo the loom. I was hoping not to have to disturb that, but you know, it is what it is. Unfortunately one of the wires of the plug for the transfer box did break, but I'll repair that. That's pretty minor. So yeah, that's a huge job. There's now a load of work I want to do in here. Looking at it now, you know, I was going to do engine mounts. Got to get the diff out. That's obviously a million times easier without the engine in situ. Just have a really good tidy up. As you can see, you know, bits of rust starting to show through. Be nice to treat all that. I've got to replace these air lines in here, because when I change the airbags, these lines have obviously got little tiny scores on them or something on the actual plastic pipe, so they leak. It leaks ever so slightly, very slowly out of them. To replace them, you know, just to replace them normally is a fairly involved job of, you know, you've got to drop all the airbags and stuff again, which, you know, isn't the end of the world, but not really something I want to be doing. But now we're in the engine bay and we've got no engine in here. Suddenly everything's a lot more accessible, so I want to do all that. Looking at it now, I think now is going to be the time to do the top arms as well. I think they're going to be a million times easier with this access in the engine bay. Again, not something I was necessarily planning on doing, but I think now is the right time to do it really. So that's another thing that I'll add to the list. Give the gearbox a good old clean up, obviously. Gonna So main battery cable I've already removed. It's quite nice really, it's on a separate feed and comes down here, which then goes to the starter and alternator. I want to put in a kill switch in line with that, partially from a security point of view. It's nice to be able to disable the engine, or it doesn't disable the engine, but it disables the starting of the engine. But also that's one of the most common failure points of fire on these. They short out internally within the starter motor or the alternator, and there's also, as I had an issue of, the main battery cable can rub through on things. So if I put an inline kill switch in it somewhere, then that just disables all of that, and hopefully it just makes it, it's just another bit of security. I won't turn it off all the time, but if I'm leaving the car somewhere vulnerable, or leaving the car for a couple of days or whatever, then I'll turn it off. I want to be something nice and simple, nice and easy, that isn't a pain in the ass to do every time. But also what that will do is that won't disable all the electrics in the car, so I won't have to keep resetting the radio and all that sort of stuff, because the car electrics run off a separate feed, so they are independent to the main battery feed, which is really nice. So hopefully it should be a nice easy thing to do. What else is there to do? I mean, there's huge amounts to do, but so what I'm going to be doing today is looking at as I've got the engine here, before I am going to, just because I'm nosy, I'm going to slightly tear into it a little bit, try and figure out what was wrong with it. I'm going to take measurements of this face here, the face of the flywheel, and just try and get as many dimensions as I can from this face here of the engine. So there's a teeny tiny chance, I think it's very unlikely, this flywheel will bolt onto the V8. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's, the chances of being the same are almost impossible. But what it means is, when I have the new flywheel made, I will have it made to take a Landrover clutch, and then I can, I know the dimension from there to there, so I know how thick my flywheel needs to be, so I can get this clutch and all these fingers in exactly the right place for the release bearing. So that's my plan. That's what I'm going to be doing tonight. I'm not going to film it. There's no point. It's just me, the straight edge and vernier. Nothing major there, but it's it's something that needs to be done, and certainly is a million times easier with it all on the engine here as it came out, because I know this works. So what I need to do with the V8 is I need to replicate this on the V8 engine. So hopefully that should be fairly straightforward. And then the only other thing I'm going to do with the engine as a bit of a diagnosis, it is completely locked solid. I've had a bar on the front, I've had a bar on the back, no movement whatsoever. So I'm going to pull the timing cover off and just have a look, see if the timing belt snapped, or the tension of idler, whatever it is on the oil pump, has snapped, and see if that's it. Mainly because it's going to make it a lot easier to sell the engine if I know what's wrong with it. I have no interest in doing anything with it. The rest of it actually looks quite good. Looking at all the intake, all the intercooler pipes, everything like that, looking at all the turbo, it all looks like it's in very good condition considering its age. I was expecting to see a lot more oil in the intercooler and inlet pipes and stuff, so it's all very good in that front. So I think, depends what's gone wrong with it, obviously, but I know people buy these engines to repair them, so I'm going to try and sell it, try and make a little bit of my money back, and go from there really. So yeah, that's a little bit of a short update on where we're at, what we're doing, and how we've come along so far. But I'm very excited. I was going to replace the engine mounts, but it would appear they're not really very readily available for good quality ones. So I'm of the opinion that I don't want to go to the effort of putting cheap nasty ones in, because they're just not going to last and they're a big job to replace. There's nothing actually wrong with these, so I will leave these in. If I find a problem with one of them or whatever, then I'll replace it. I have got, by all accounts, they are the same on the TD V6 as they are V8, and they all run the same engine mounts. So I will have another set from the V8 Discovery if I need them, but I don't think I will. These look in very good condition, considering, so hopefully that will be alright. Still got to remove all the fuel tank, all of the fuel lines, the fuel filter, everything like that's all got to come out, because obviously none of that's being used for the petrol. That'll have its own setup. So these are diff breather lines. Something I've wanted to do for a very, very long time is actually reroute them and plumb them into the air intake box somewhere, because then they are sealed. You know, this air box is a sealed unit. It's sealed to the body, sealed to the snorkel, and the valve at the bottom is working and closed. So it will be a good sealed system. So I want to plumb them into that, along with the gearbox breather, so that I don't plan on going through huge wades of water, but it'd be nice to not have to worry about it quite so much if I do decide to take it on off-roading and find a large puddle or two. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. Again, another little update. I think it's probably going to be more of this sort of stuff until I start getting into the actual the actual fitting of the engine, the working out of what needs to happen and stuff. I've also decided with the V8, so I'm going to do all the timing chains and everything on it before it runs, but rather than try and mount it on a stand, as I've seen how open the front of the Discovery is, either before it comes out of this one or when it goes into the other one, I'll do all the timing chains then, because it's going to be a lot easier. Otherwise I've got to try and mount it on a stand and everything like that. I don't really want to be doing it on the floor, so it's it's actually very accessible in the front of the car. So I've got to order a new all timing chain kit, obviously, new radiator, because the diesel one is very different, much shorter because it had an intercooler underneath it. So the V8 rad, this one's blocked, so it needs a new one. Yeah, there's just bits like the airline pipes. Now going to be ordering new top arms and bolts and stuff like that. So I've got to bite the bullet and order more bits now. Now I know where I'm going with it, and then obviously the big I guess lead time thing is going to be the flywheel. So I need to sort of try and work that out sooner rather than later, really, because it's going to be it's probably going to be 6 to 8 weeks for a flywheel to be made. So that's going to be the killer on the lead time thing. So I need to try and figure that out sooner rather than later. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I will keep you updated. Thank you very much.